Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Hellier, independent film director and president of the European Independent Film Festival, as well as 3 other film festivals, the All Asian Independent Film Festival in Cambodia, the All African Independent Film Festival in Rwanda, Kigali, and the All Americas Independent Film Festival, which takes place in Mexico City every year. So we're nice and busy, but very warm welcome from a cold and grey Paris today. We're going to be talking animation. Hopefully all things animation. It's a fantastically interesting field, one that scares people like myself because it always appears that it takes such a long time to do. But today we've got 5 guests, all independent animators. Most all have competed in one of our various festivals, and some winners as well. So first of all, I'm going to talk to Antanas, who's from Vilnius in Lithuania, film director, data artist, which is what I want to learn more about, and a lecturer at the Vilnius Academy of Arts, involved in animation since 2005 and was honored as Lithuanian Animator of the Year by the Lithuanian Animation Association 2023. Also working in the field of new media. So let's whiz across to Vilnius. I guess you're in Vilnius right now, right?
Yes, I'm in a university right now, but yes, in Vilnius University.
Well, you're teaching the world, not only your students today.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your sort of path to where we are today?
Yes, so I stupidly started to do animation by hoping to make special effects for films, but I never made special effects for film. I just was making animation from that time. I made around 40 films, so a lot of short films, and only now more internationally successful films. Before I was making like fairy tales or something local and more local, and now I'm making more internationally local. So, and my approach is always use different style. I like to try something new. I get bored to do same thing and I want to try something new. So I started from 3D animation, cutout animation, now a bit stop motion animation. So I use a lot of different technique, even artificial intelligence before it was a thing. So one of my successful film was actually artificial intelligence generated film, but I cheated. I animated it by hands. I just said that it's artificial intelligence film. So I try a lot of things and I think that makes me happy. I don't know. I had a lot of choices in life to do something else, but I always come back to animation. Sometimes it's good times, sometimes not good times, but it's still enjoying doing something new and develop new styles, new approaches, new ideas, new scripts, and so on. Yeah.
I just wonder, is it easier as an animator to develop these new styles and skills because you don't have to have a huge big team around you like we do on a film set?
Yeah. So I started doing alone. So a lot of things I did it just by myself. That's sometimes it's easier because if you know one thing, you know another thing, and if you combine, you get something more interesting, new. So that's the trick. You don't develop something new. You just take two words, two different things, and if you combine, you get new, different thing. So I think it's easier, but also if you do a lot of styles, you can risk. You sometimes win, you sometimes lose. The style is that who define how your film will go later. Because sometimes the style is so not nice, I don't know how to say, so, or cheap looking, or I don't know, too much of the same type of films, and you have no success. And sometimes if you on right time find something a bit unique, you have a better chances also to success. So you win or lose and trends and so on, but I think it's interesting, the creation part, to develop something new. I think what the creators has to do to find something new and a bit different every time.
Fabulous. I love the attitude of always trying to do something different and new. Let's just talk very quickly about Perga, which won Best Animation here at ECU 2024. Why don't we talk to a little bit about Perga?
Yeah, so it's started from images which I saw maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I really liked the feeling of images which they gave up. It was the painting of person who lived in Siberia, was exiled, and we kept idea like for long years, and then decided to make a film. So the film the start was the original images of exile, but the problem was that you couldn't make a film out of images which we saw. So we needed to develop new way. So we needed to find an artist and a way of telling the story, because the story is complicated in this historical topics. So what left from originals, so black and white. So we basically knew that it's black and white film, because the images has this nice, as here, this tint of brown color and so on. And that was the main thing. And also the scenes, some scenes are also the scenes of original pictures. But we were lucky to find artists who really made good character design, and yeah, you bring the team, and also some people who worked on effects and post-production. So technically it's not complicated thing, but we had different specialists which are good on some parts of filmmaking. So we had good character designers, good special effect designers, and that's how visually it combined. And I started myself from some sketches how that could look, even the character design and effects and so on. But later on we, how to say, split to more people, which completed it and made it, because we were two directors with Gintari. We both even more search for style, and I think that's how it ended up.
I mean, the idea of being able to do such an emotive work in animation is very tricky for me. I mean, I've been to Siberia in both summer and winter, and it took me straight back to a day in the life of Ivan Denisovich, watching your film. So great style, great, and a very, very good story, well told. We're gonna jump off you for a second, and we're gonna speak to Tessa. Tessa is a British-Polish writer and animated director, a graduate of the National Film and Television School in the UK. Her go-to style of animation is stop motion, which I can't wait to talk a bit more about that, but she's also done 2D animated kids series and experimented in mixed media. She specializes in short forms with a quirky sense of humor and a dark, whimsical tone. So, Tessa, how are you today?
I'm okay. Thank you for having me. How are you, Scott?
I'm excellent. Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about your path to where we are today?
Well, Curioso was made in 2000. Well, it was completed in 2022. So it's been a few years since that happened. And I should maybe add that was my graduation film from the NFTS. And I got there, well, it's quite a long journey, because I made my first animated film when I was 16, which is what got me into film school when I was 18. However, I did not study animation. I graduated, my first degree was in directing fiction and working with actors and, doing the real thing. However, it was just exhausting. and I found that a lot of the storytelling was compromised by figuring out how to get the film set together and how to get everything to work. So after 2 years of that, I moved back into animation because I felt that it gave me far more freedom. And like Antanas, I don't really specialize in one style, and I like to search. And I think that's probably because I went into animation as a way of storytelling, and I was strongly inspired by books. Yeah, and I think from an early age I knew that I wanted to tell stories. I just didn't really know how or in what genre or in what techniques. So I've just been exploring a lot of different styles throughout the years, and stop motion was my favorite, mostly because I spent a lot of time in front of screens, and it may be a selfish reason, but I just prefer making things by hand and spending time in the studio and playing with the lights and figuring out things on the way go to, and it's been really rewarding. And I think I really see that handmade touch in the films I've made. And then the second part, the second thing I realized I really enjoy is working with people, which is not a very common thing. I mean, I guess the thing about animators is we often spend a lot of time working alone, but I do love to collaborate with other creatives, and when you grow your team and where your projects get larger, you get to do that, which also means they get to be made faster. So the first film, my BA degree film, which was an animation, took me 2 years, and was me and a set designer who I met making this film, who's now one of my closest friends. So it was just the two of us in the cellar for nearly 2 years working off on getting that story through. And I learned a lot by doing that. I learned to plan better. I learned to storyboard better. I learned to work with editors early on because by the time I finished the film, there were parts that just weren't relevant or weren't needed. So the editor ended up removing 7 minutes of the film, which is about 6 months of work.
That hurts.
Yeah, no, but it's part of the learning process, I think. So that I've kind of been learning by doing. After graduating, I just went into the industry and I continued making films. And this first film allowed me to get a grant to make the second film and start a company, which then allowed me to make the next film and then get work in the industry as a director on kids' TV series, which were animated in Toon Boom. And now, well, I came back to get a master's degree when I was 30, because I hadn't studied animation and I felt a bit stuck in my career. And I love stop motion, but as you know, it's a very demanding style. It's quite expensive. It requires space and sets and a lot of like a large team if you want to do something ambitious. And the NFTS allowed that. It's a school that's focused on storytelling, which I really appreciated, and I think it really helped me improve my storytelling skills. But then they also help you make this film in your second year, which was a very intense process because we only had 1 year to make it. But then if I tell non-animators it took me 1 year, they think it's long, but actually when I tell animators, they think it's no time. So that was pretty. It did pretty well at festivals, which was reassuring, and helped me find an agent. And since then, it's been a bit of a bumpy road, but I have since got funding to work on my feature film, which is now in production, which is not stop motion. It's Toon Boom animation. It's cutout animation, and then I'm making a documentary, which is also new to me. That's the second project I'm working on, and I think that's a natural direction that I feel like I want to develop towards.
Well, you're speaking to a documentarian here, so I agree. And a lot of people in my office don't agree, but documentaries to me are the true stories. they've done well. Let's just bounce quickly onto Curiosa, which was at ECU 2023. Tell me a little bit about it, and the audience can just admire the immense amount of work that went into this.
Okay, so Curiosa is basically a story about an overly curious girlfriend who comes to her boyfriend's apartment for the first time and discovers it's completely empty, and starts to ask questions, starts to want to understand the backstory of these circumstances. And it started as a one-liner, really, about climbing into another person's head, and it was inspired by my experience. I'm not saying it's one-to-one my experience. I don't have any keys to other people's heads, but it was inspired by the curiosity and vulnerability and insecurities I had when I was starting my first serious relationship with a person that was older than me and more experienced. And while at the NFTS, I started reading about retroactive jealousy, which is a very interesting concept. The fact that you can be jealous about something that's not there anymore and only belongs to the past. But I think it's quite relevant to relationships. And when I was pitching the idea to friends and other filmmakers, it just felt like it landed, like it was relatable to a lot of people. And somehow everyone knew that it was going to end badly, which already gave me an end to the film, So I had a good premise and I had an ending, and then I had to figure out how to tell the rest as a structured story. And then technically I wanted to try something new. So even though a large part of the film is stop motion, with puppets in the scale of 1 to 6, I think, like this size, basically. I knew that I wanted to create these two worlds, one that is inside of the head, which we'll see in a moment, and then the exterior world, which is actors, like human actors, wearing these big masks that we designed to look like the miniature heads, which was a very interesting task to approach. And also, creating those masks, there were quite a few challenges. And also, I haven't really seen a film that had been made in that style, where you have actors wearing masks moving in pixelation, which is when you take photos frame by frame as a person moves, but also doing that while animating their faces. So we would ask them to freeze in the studio, and then we'd run up and move their eyes or mouth, and then run back behind the camera and take a photo, and do that, 1,000 times per day. And we only had 10 days of shooting, so that was a very busy time, but very rewarding and very fun. But also that's why you'll see that there's a different kind of aesthetic in the movement. The stop motion parts, like this one, are very smooth, whereas the parts with the big masks and the actors are actually quite jumpy, but that's because they're actors and they're human, and you can't really ask them to freeze completely. They need to breathe, basically.
I'm loving the fact that the whole storytelling, it's all about the storytelling, and just on a technical side, whenever I look at stop frame animation, I'm always looking for the shadows, because for me that's the key. And I can't imagine what it must be on set, just to try and make sure those shadows match, and the stuff like that it always amazes me. I love that film, and the getting inside people's heads is a scary thing, but you did it very, very well in that story. I loved it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to bail off you for a second. I'm going to speak to Anna. Anna is a Berlin-based artist and filmmaker. Her work deals with the psychology of the everyday, often using hand-drawn rotoscope animation. Her artworks have been exhibited across Europe, animated short films are screened worldwide, and won prizes at film festivals, including ECU 2025 Best in Animation for the film Chicken. Anna, how are you?
I'm good. I haven't spoken to anyone today, so I hope my voice is all right. Very well.
The sexy voice works. There you go. And again, just like everyone, tell us a little bit of your story up until today.
Gosh, I fell in love with animation about 20 years ago now when I was at university. I was studying illustration, and we had a little elective where we could try out animation. And since then, I never really wanted to draw anything that didn't move, because somehow having this additional dimension just made sense to me, and I felt like that's kind of a natural way to tell stories. And yeah, like the other two, I've also like gone through many different styles, or not styles, techniques, different forms of animation. But at the moment, I'm really happy working kind of drawing digitally, and usually using this rotoscope technique, which is like video and then drawing over video for those that might not know. And yeah, because somehow even though I like the movement, and the movement is this thing that drew me into animation, I really like the freedom that rotoscoping gives me, where I don't have to concentrate on the movement too much, because that's in the video, so I can focus on the painting. So I'm almost doing sort of like a frame by frame painting style.
Did you have a background of drawing? Did you grow up drawing and scribbling?
I mean, sure. Like I'm sure all of us, as a kid, we're drawing and spending hours and hours with color pens and all that. But I'm not a trained painter. I studied illustration, so technically yes, but I studied in the UK, where it wasn't very much focused on techniques. It was kind of just here's a brief, solve it in whatever way you want. And for me, usually that ended up being animation in the end. But yeah, no classical training, just a lot of enthusiasm.
I only ask you because this is my drawing. This is me doing storyboard. So let me tell you, I have no background in it at all, and I'm no damn good at it. So yes, that's my effort compared to yours.
But that's how my storyboards look as well. The first drafts, they look like that, because the storyboard needs to communicate something else than a like animated final frame.
Well, mine. I've been told that mine looks like a drunken spider who's crawled out of an inkwell and just crawled its way around the page. So
but that's so poetic. I love it.
Yeah. I didn't take it poetic. I took it as a direct criticism of my drawing skills.
No.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Chicken, which is it's a fabulously interesting story. There's quite a lot of depth in this film.
I started out wanting to explore anger. That's what I wanted to do. So the story kind of almost came after. I wanted to start with this feeling when you're just so mad at something or someone that you just want to like get it out there, and usually you can't, or you can only in very destructive ways. So I wanted to kind of make a film where there is this kind of release and this destruction, and the rage or the anger can come out in a way that, well, it was only destructive in the film maybe, but that's the question. Is it cathartic? Is it a good question in the end? The story, for those who haven't watched it, is about a woman who escapes an abusive relationship situation and falls and meets a chicken, and then they have this kind of moment together and decide to set everything on fire together, wordlessly, of course, because animation doesn't always need words. Yeah.
And I love this. I mean, again, animation and its different styles. I think every filmmaker that we're talking to today and whatever just has a different style, and yours has a very vibrant. So it would sort of, it dragged, the story dragged you in, but then you had this technique around it, which was beautiful, and I loved it. And just talking about anger, I mean, obviously we run film festivals, and I'm a film director, so there's a certain amount of anger and angst in all of that. But I listened to the BBC earlier this morning, and they're putting a little separated room where tennis players can go in there and bang their tennis rackets around and not get caught on camera. So, I guess everybody has that anger. So Good. I loved it. We're gonna come back and we're gonna after I introduce everyone, we're going to talk to everybody about their techniques, because I want to know more about rotoscoping, because I rotoscoped a lot. I never did personally, because you've seen my drawings and my artwork, but about people rotoscoping my business is, I think, completely different to yours. So I want to know more about that. But next, I'm going to go to Mexico. We've got two film directors with us, Abril and Joseph. Sorry? I'm getting corrected. My Spanish is now getting corrected by my Mexican friend. Abril is a Mexican animation director, passionate about creating worlds where the fantastic comes to life. Studied digital art in Monterrey, and her work explores narratives from a feminine perspective, giving voice to characters that move and leave a mark. And then we have Joseph. He's a digital art professional, graduated from Monterrey as well, with a specialization in 2D and 3D from Puco School, Spain. I like that name. Passionate about the entire creative process behind animation, from story development to technical execution, with a strong emphasis on 3D modeling and animation. And they competed at the All Americas Independent Film Festival 2025 in the student category. Welcome. How are you guys?
Hi.
Thank you.
How are you?
A bit nervous, but fine.
Oh,
you
excellent.
said it was cold in Paris, but you seem very fresh.
It's because they leave me out on the balcony most of the day. They only let me to talk. So, hey guys, how are you doing? Abril, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and leading up to today?
Well, I just started like the previous artist, and I started studying and with the purpose to learn about illustration. Then I ended up here in animation, and it's been a roller coaster of emotion, because like all here I started to see all the other techniques, other ways to tell the story, not only in animation, because what I really like is storytelling. And yeah, it's that, and also right now I'm very inspired by Pinocho. Here in Mexico is a animation festival that is called Pixelato, where a lot of Mexican artists and also other artists around the world get together to talk about other films, techniques. And I remember that year that just Pinocho came out, and I really get inspired. So for the film I get selected here. It was in stop motion for that reason, because Pinocho was, some parts were made here in Mexico. So I say they have to start somewhere. So I want to start independently, yes, maybe a little bit raw, but I want to start. So yeah, so that's how I here today.
And what's the telling the stories from a female perspective? How do you bring that into your work?
Well, I feel like in a lot of productions and stories, I think some things are different if you live it as a female, and I really think some of that perspective has to be told, because since some movies I say like, yeah, that's never happened to me. Like, I mean, I get emotion, but then I didn't realize that I never happened to that. And once I realized that, more for internet, because we don't talk about these things, but right now a lot of women take their social media and say, hey, this happened to me, and it's like, wow, that's never talked before about this with other women, even with my mom. It's like a taboo topic, talk for things like that. And I feel like as an artist, I have to shout out for myself in topics that other people can say because they can live it. So yeah.
No. Excellent, excellent. Joseph, why don't you give me a little bit about you?
Yeah, I think I was always interested in animation, so it was an easy choice to study animation. But then I discovered what really was animation, and that it was much more difficult and this whole world. But I fell in love with every part of it, and Abril was the one that got me into stop motion because I just wanted to tell a story, and Abril came with a story, and yeah, she wanted to make stop motion, and she was the one that was inspired to make it stop motion, and now I love stop motion too, and yeah, um, and yeah, we made that film, and I believe that we always should prioritize the narrative and the storytelling, and for us, stop motion has been a way of telling that story, and well, maybe more to come.
Well, why don't we have a little look at Dance Between Fangs and tell us a little bit about how it came about and how you made it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think Abril can speak more about that. It was her idea.
Go for it, Abril.
Well, I start with the idea, but Joseph have all the animation together. He was the director of animation, and the story started with this girl that made this vampire, and I don't know, have this dance, and like everything is magic. Then she discovered that he's a vampire, and everything turns down. It was more like I don't know. The idea comes from idealizing. I don't know if it's a correct word in English, but we have this person putting on the top of the world and then realize, yeah, he's an asshole, and then
Happens.
that's happened, and that's how the idea come out. And I feel the stop motions have this darkness, like it's everything cute, but then it's have this darkness, the other side of the moon. I don't know how to say it, but this dark side, and I like it a lot. When I wanted to be stop motion, but I don't think about that twist. But then I ended up with the script and the stop motion. Like, yes, that's a perfect fit, a perfect match. So yeah, just how we came out.
Well, it's a great film. I mean, yes, going out on a date and finding them about vampires, it's always a good twist. It's always a good twist. What I'd like to do, I'm going to open this up to a bit of a group discussion because I want to go through some techniques, and I'm gonna go to my Lithuanian friends, because in your blurb that we got from you, Antanas, we talked about XR, VR, AR, and AI, which is all great, but for us uninitiated, how does that work in the world, or in the realm of animation?
Yeah, so now it's changing everything with techniques. I think if you know a lot of techniques, it's better to find new ways how to express. Now the problem's coming with AI that it's too easy to make, and maybe it's how to say, not a film anymore, but a lot of problems. But anyway, if you are a creator, you're looking for something new, and all new tools gives you new ways of expression. So you don't have to repeat what everyone else did or what others use some tools, AI tools. You always can create new ways of interpreting it. Now I'm using AI tools to create my own animation tools. So I'm making tests of using my own made tools. So it's not directly AI generated images, but something a bit more unique, mine, and output is everything is made by my hands, except the tool which is created AI. So I think it's interesting for creator. Sorry, sometimes I don't care about film. I care about creation process, and for creator to create something new is wonderful. So if you create something new and you feel that it's new, it's not, you're not repeating trends, you're not repeating what everybody else do, you don't chase success, then I think for creator is something positive. So
I'll just jump in there for 1 second. I love the fact that you're talking about that, but I mean, there will be some people out there who don't just create the tools, but actually let AI do everything for them. Is that a worry amongst everybody here?
It depends from day. On one day for me it's, oh no, next day maybe it's good.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm guessing that in the world of stop motion, AI is not going to get in there and change things around. But you know, let's talk about the stop motion technique. One, it takes a lot of time. Is patience one of the most important things as a, you know, apart from creativity? Is patience one of the things that you really, really need? Abril, you're nodding your head.
Yeah. Well, we did a short film in 4 months. It's a really short time. But I think only for doing the puppets, we do it like in a month. And I think it was like we start in the morning and we finish at night, and we don't so like we're gonna never end, like where is no ending. So it's a lot of patience and trust. I don't know that your skills are good enough to bring this idea in life. I think it's in all the techniques, but in stop motion is more like, yeah, I don't see this is finished, but you have to give it a
you have to. I think we learned together that you have to have a lot of love for the craft you're making, and that's what keeps you going, because it's very heavy and it's very difficult at times. So yeah, that's what made us finish the whole thing.
Tessa, you must have a lot of patience as well, because you've made a lot of these things big time projects. Because, you know, as a filmmaker, for me, when I hear about 6 months, 2 years, and whatever, I go crazy. But you guys, wow!
I don't think I really have much patience. I think I have determination. But I'm now, after all these years, I'm quite a fast animator, and I'm also quite willing to sacrifice the craft in order to tell the story, which is what I'm doing depending on the budget. You know, I'll simplify the visual language as much as I can, because the story has always been more important to me. However, I think, you know, the 2 years I spent making my first film, it was also a way of learning. And what I've learned also, because, you know, I've also animated 3D characters, and people tend to think that stop motion is so much slower than 3D animation. But I would disagree, because if you want to do really good quality 3D animation, then you have to go through the animation frame by frame anyway, and you have to think about every part of the process. I think stop motion is maybe less forgiving because it's harder to go back, but even not that much, you know, because I do find that the process of doing good quality 3D animation is actually quite similar. You're using different tools, but the thought process is the same. But yeah, just going back to patience, I think, I think it's also like a different style of work in animation, because for me meditation is quite meditative, and I also enjoy it, and that really helps, you know. So even if I'm impatient, I will play music, and as long as I know what I'm doing, I can spend hours just listening to music and working on my film, and I just really enjoy it. I think that's the key for, like, I would never be able to do it if I didn't enjoy the process.
I love that determination and love for the project, and I mean it's dripping off the screen here in front of me. But Anna, I want to know about this rotoscope thing, because for me, I was all about, oh, okay, well, I've made a mess of that during shooting. My editor's going to rotoscope that out, and that was death on a stick for us. How does it work for you?
Rotoscoping is kind of a word that has two meanings. So there's the rotoscoping that I think you're probably referring to, which is basically painting out mistakes. So it's a kind of post-production process, right? Where you're isolating a person that wasn't captured by the green screen properly, things like that, where you just draw masks frame by frame or with in between keyframe software. So that's kind of one meaning of rotoscoping. And then the other, which is sort of similar in the way that you have video or film material and you're taking the movement from it and treating it frame by frame. But this is a technique that's also very old. Like, for example, Disney's Snow White was using this rotoscope technique to animate. And that's basically you're taking film or video and you're drawing over it. So you can do it analog with, like on celluloid, on cells, painting frame by frame over things. Or in my case, I do it digitally. So I film video. I do tend to work at 12 frames per second, because if I work at 24 frames per second, it just looks really bad.
Wow.
But it looks really shit. So maybe it's because my drawing is a little nervous. But yeah, essentially it's just taking the video to create the movement, or to take the movement, but then creating a drawing completely independent on top of it. So it's sort of similar to the rotoscoping that is in sort of post-production VFX, in the way that you are kind of following a movement, but it's much more kind of using that movement to trace, but also to be able to draw things. And that's, just having this movement given by the video that I usually take them somewhere else, means I'm so free of drawing and painting, and without having to follow the kind of animation in the way that if I had to also create the movement from scratch. So that's why I like it. But a lot of animators do not like this technique at all, because you are kind of losing a bit the craft of animation, the creation of the movement from nothing. But for me, it works really well. So.
Oh, and the results are outstanding. Here's a moment I'm gonna pass on to Rodrigo, the festival manager of all these crazy film festivals we run, because we've got the ECU crew here chomping at the bit to ask you guys questions. So it's over to you, Rodrigo.
So first of all, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to start with one of the questions from one of our interns. The first question comes from Chiara.
Hello, hi. I'm Chiara, and I have a question for Testa. Testa.
Okay.
Okay. I couldn't see you. Okay, perfect, fine. So I watched your movie and I loved it, and I saw that the story featured some dimensional changes, long tunnel, and this reminded me of some classics like Coraline and also Alice in Wonderland. I don't know, it gave me this vibe. So I wanted to ask, do you have some model of inspiration?
The two films you mentioned are actually one of my favorite films of all time. So Alice in Wonderland, I had them VHS, so I watched that multiple times again and again. It's really dark, and
yes,
I really enjoyed it.
Like the vibes were the same and just reminding me of Alice.
Yes, and I read Coraline when I was quite young, and I think very early, after reading it as a kid, I basically decided I would love to make Coraline as a film. That was like my first adaptation dream. And a few years later, I realized, oh wow, they're already doing it, and it's already going to be an amazing, proper and stop motion also, So Yes, I think so. When I was making a film, it's I didn't seek inspiration in any particular films, but there are a lot of films that influenced me as a person, and a lot of filmmakers and a lot of books. So the two you mentioned, but also I used to be a big fan of David Lynch films, which I tried to make Curiosa darker. I don't think it's that dark, but Eraserhead was one of my favorite films when I was a teenager and I was getting passionate about cinema. There's obviously people compare the story to Being John Malkovich a bit, and I'm a big fan of Charlie Kaufman and Michel Gondry. Yeah, and then there's literature and magical realism, and Edgar Carrot as a writer is also one of my favorites. And I think a lot of creators that border on surrealism and step away from reality and try to also express internal doubts and vulnerabilities and weaknesses. I think that's something I like to speak about, but also the dark sides of our souls, which are so fascinating. But just to summarize your question, there weren't any particular filmmakers or films that I was trying to be like. I just did what I like to do, and then you can obviously see all those inspirations there.
It's the inspiration that comes from all, and magical realism. I think it's quite the two words that really better express the project and work. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Our next question comes from Valentina.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. Hi to everyone. And my question is for Anna.
Hello.
Hello. What does animation allow you to say about trauma that live action might struggle to express?
I think in animation you kind of almost always talk on a level of metaphor or using images for more than just a photo kind of level.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, even if you're working with sort of photographic animation, some people do. So I think in that way it has this the same language as it's at its disposal as painting, for example, as sort of the traditional visual arts. So I think it just has a broader spectrum of language available to itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is very incredibly well suited to talk about trauma and all other kind of unpleasant emotions, maybe also pleasant ones, but honestly I'm not sure I can think of a film that's just about happiness. Maybe someone should try. But it's I think it just has the potential of expression that you can talk about things without showing them on a sort of surface level, without showing them clearly or directly. That's the word I was looking for. So to kind of work through the drawing or through the characters or whatever, I think you just have a different kind of expression at hand.
I agree. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you for your question.
Perfect. Our next question comes from Soraya.
Hi, I have a question for Tanas.
Yep.
So you spoke a lot about how you like to change from different styles and like trying out different things. And I was wondering, kind of like a two-part question. One, if you have a favorite style, and then also if like you choose the style first, story second, or if it's like style based on the story, and like how you pair those two up, because like I'm sure that it changes like the whole way that it's like created.
Yeah. So the idea is that I do a lot of experiments, and after I doing a lot of experiments, then if I have an idea or story, I pick up my old experiments and somehow combine. So for example, poor guy came from experiment of augmented reality. It's strange. It's go around like our way. I captured video frame moving with camera, and I added objects, and I like this graphical effect of it. I don't know how to explain, but so you do one experiment, another experiment, and later on, when you have a script or idea, you combine your old ideas to something new. So what I do, I always experimenting, and I keep that in folder in some places, and after time comes, I pick up. So I don't regret my experiments, because sometimes you think this is a waste of time. But what I did, I always use. I used VR headsets, I used augmented reality projects. You have a lot of things which you try, you don't know what to do with that, but then you have this, oh, I can use it there. And I think that's what I like in animation. You can, because for animators it's really hard to be a technical artist and have a good script. It's few of us could manage that. So you always have to, how to say, both sides work on script and on technical part too.
That's so interesting. Thank you. Is that a favorite style that you like find yourself going back to, or not really?
Yeah, I going back like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So I have style which now I have style which I really like, but I don't have a story. So I try new story for that. If it doesn't work, it goes back again to wait for better times. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. And our last question comes from Jorge.
Hello, hi everyone. My question was for Abril and Joseph. Hi. I wanted to ask that with all these camera angles and transitions and details, what challenges did you face in animating like the dance movements in stop motion?
I think it was mostly camera movements and lighting. I mean, it was all new for us, and we were used to move the camera in 3D, and it was very simple. But we used some cheats to make some movements of the camera. We moved the characters and the set instead of the camera. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay,
and it sounds more difficult, but in reality it was the best option for us, because in that way we didn't move the camera, and we just have a still shot and it looked way smoother.
Okay, nice. It's always good like to have those sort of extra cheats to like play with the video and everything. So yeah, thank you for your answer.
Thank you for your question.
Perfect. And our last question comes from Sophia.
Hello, everyone. I have a question actually for everyone, kind of a discussion. So, what was the most important lesson you learned while making your animation movies? Maybe stories or a lesson to pass to the future animators to us?
I'm going to start if that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is, we were already touched on it. If you want to do animation, you need a certain amount of patience. And if you're not a patient person, think very hard if you want to get into animation. But then once you've decided, just be stubborn. Those would be my two pieces of advice.
Perfect. Let's go with Abril.
Okay. I think have a really strong story. Well, I'm not sure today, but you have to like more the story and find a way to tell it. I think animation is a medium at the end of the day. No, it's like a technique. All the stories that are in animations are like classified in only one way. You can tell any kind of story with animation. But I would say patience is one of those, And also, I think I like the word that Tessa said, that be determined to finish it, because I think it's like sometimes the project consume you, and I think I also ask you if you can do it, and you have to be ready to say that yes, I can do it. But I will prefer like, yeah, I can do it. But yeah, you have to have that determination with you.
Perfect. Let's go with Antanas.
Yeah, I learned nothing. I repeat the same errors every time, and I think I will learn from it, but I repeat that. So animation takes every time longer than you imagine, like twice longer if you imagine. And yeah, and I think what most important thing is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and make bad movie. You sometimes, how to say, you need to believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, everybody else will believe in you too. So that's, I think, the most important thing. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's go with Joseph.
I would say what I already told Scott, to love the craft, because that's the thing that gets you through all hell.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's go with Tessa.
I think I could agree with everything that was said about this advice. I think what I learned during making Curiosa was taking and filtering feedback, which is down to knowing what you want to do and what you want to say with the film. So I think that's really important, that you yourself have a clear vision of what you want to do, and then apply, like filter feedback. So take feedback from a lot of people, but also filter it through your own lens and learn to take the feedback that is helpful to make the film you want to make, and kind of leave behind the feedback that's driving you in a different direction. Because with creative work, you get a lot of, like, everyone's creative, and whoever you show your idea to will have a different direction for the film. And I think for developing your career, I would advise something that I was advised against, but I think I've grown into believing that you should learn to produce your work too, and you should also learn, if you want to make your art your career, I think you need to look into, you know, how to run a business, how to produce a film, and how the industry works. That's my advice.
Thank you
have
so
fun
much,
too.
Fred. Yes, thank you a lot. Thank you.
Perfect. So now what I wanted to do is I want to open the floor to you to see if any of you have any questions for one of your other animators.
Don't have a question. I just want to say I loved all the excerpts from your films. They're so beautiful. So congratulations on beautiful films.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we're going back to you, Scott. And I agree with Anna. All of your films and types of animations are extraordinary. So please, when you have a new project, think of us. All of you have fee waivers, so you just contact us and we'll give you a fee waiver so that you can submit your film to us, because we really, really love your projects.
So there you go. That's the ECU crew asking questions. The fact that they're here and they're asking these questions mean that they love what you do, as we do. I'm going to wrap this up very quickly because I don't want to take too much of your time. A couple of words that jumped out here for me, which was the one thing that stood out above everything was storytelling. And I think in this podcast, this is the most amount of times that I've heard storytelling. And what you guys are doing is you're using your techniques to tell the story. And honestly, it's so much about who I am and what we do. And just the fact that it plays such a strong role in how you make your films. It really shows through. You know, animation is a technique, and I think more filmmakers should actually concentrate on the story much more than the technique. The technique will follow, but have a really strong story. As with any story, the fact that the story has an ending, I mean, that's the most important thing for any story for me, in film or book or whatever. One of the other words that I've sort of come to the conclusion of is there seems a lot more freedom in animation. I don't know whether that's because a lot of it's done solitary and then you bring teams in, but it just seemed to me that there seemed a bit more freedom in what you guys do. And I could be speaking out of my hat here, but I think that's the feeling that I got. Keep trying, determination, fail. You know, guys, fail quickly, but failure is the only thing that's going to help us. The talk about magic realism, that plays a big part of my life, and I definitely would not be here today unless for Gabriel Garcia Marquez and people like that. And the fact that we're all waiting for a happy animation film. No, we're not, because the darkness of our soul. I'm a Bruce Springsteen fan, and there's a line in one of his songs that says, "I'll love you with all of the darkness in my soul." So maybe me and animation does have something in common after all. But again, if you look at my drawings, there's not much chance of this ever making it anywhere. So I'm gonna thank you 5 animators. Thank you very, very much. Storytellers, true storytellers, and that came through a lot. As Rodrigo says, please, with any of these new works, send them our way. And just to talk a little bit about what we do and how we're doing it. ECU, the European Independent Film Festival, will be here on the 24th, 25th, and 26th of April here in Paris. The All Americas Independent Film Festival will be in Mexico City on 14th, 15th, and 16th of August. The All African Independent Film Festival in Kigali, Rwanda, will be the 9th, 10th, and 11th of October. And the All Asian in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, 4th, 5th, and 6th of December. So we've got a lot of, our mantra is quite simple. We're just trying to make the world a little bit better, one independent film at a time, whether it be animated, experimental, documentary. So that's what we do. Again, many thanks to you fabulously talented animation people. Thanks to Rodrigo and the ECU crew, bringing this out and helping us to fulfill our mantra. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks very, very much for a very rewarding podcast. Okay, ciao.